or?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, yeah. So we can come back to the roadmap when 30 minutes are left, but we can start with the rest of it. Yeah.
Is John here? Maybe I'll skip mine because I was hoping to get some input from John. So Ed, did you want to start with? I believe that issue has already been triaged.
Yes. So I put that on a few weeks ago. I'm glad someone's looking at it. I will keep through there.
Okay.
Yeah, just the TLDR was that Ed was the first one who was trying it with the latest version of Istio and assembly script, and that's why Solo had to fix some things, and now we will hopefully work with them closely to make sure things are in sync.
Even though I was using a back level thing because of the SOAP problem, it is troubling to me that a WebAssembly keeps running after XDS no longer refers to it.
Yes. So I think that your last comment I just saw, I think like yesterday or today, something like that, and that does need to go back to WASM. So we need to follow that part up into Envoy WASM.
Okay. So Ed, are you happy with where things are, and we're going to keep talking on that bug then? That sounds right.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Peter, did you want to talk about stats inclusion?
Yeah, sure. So so if you look at the linked PR, it adds a server new field into the proxy config, which specifies the stats inclusion based on the stats name, surface, prefix, and regex expression. And without this, like the current way we what is more Envoy stats is real annotations. So basically, if we found that some pod is in bad state and we want to debug it, we are going to add annotation to that pod. And but that only works for sidecar. And if we want to manipulate this for gateway, we need to add the Istio meta env variable. So basically, the problem right now is that one, gateway and sidecar does not have a consistent way to configure Envoy stats, and two is that we don't have a global, we don't have a way to globally enable some stats. So that's why I came up like this PR. Like I make this PR so that we have the proxy config to control global stats inclusion, and we can do per workload override, and the way to override would be the same at gateway and sidecar. So, and Doc mentioned that this PR might have implication on the new telemetry API, because proxy configuration is one place that we are considering to add new telemetry API control. So I'm not sure whether I should hold on this PR or and wait for the shape of the new API and see whether it still whether it makes sense to add this into the new telemetry API, or shall we just submit this as it is right now? So hope to get some feedback on this. Yeah, Doc, what do you think?
Yeah, so I mean, well, my primary concern was just having everyone know that this was going on, because I think I had been out of town, and I just wanted to make sure that everyone had a chance to look at it and comment. I do wonder, I mean, are we okay with tactical changes, adding a bunch of stuff to proxy config while we wait on figuring out our story for a broader telemetry API? And is this even the kind of thing we want to support at that level of API? So I'm sort of interested in input from others.
Yeah, this is static config. So like to me, telemetry API is something that we want to configure dynamically, right? So I'm not sure whether this would make sense to be part of telemetry API or not. So
well, so telemetry API we want it to be both, right? We want the actual final API, yes, I agree, it's kind of dynamic, but the whole picture should and does include telemetry defaults and telemetry overrides, or basically, I mean, those are the two things, right? This is the default, right? That's why you've put it here. And this is the default. So is this the default, the same default for gateways and sidecars, or different?
Yes, yeah, I think so.
But I think one of the things is that many times you actually do want different things at gateways and sidecars.
Yeah, so that in that way you can override this at gateway. Like we are proxy config annotation.
Okay, so then you would do proxy config annotation. So then it's still. So I mean, I think the override story is still mixed, right? Part of it is in mesh config or proxy config, and part of it is in the annotation. If we choose to do something different in the telemetry API, then this will still be somewhat of a one-off. So I think that, like, I completely understand why you're doing it. The Istio meta JSON thing, or Istio meta JSON stats thing is difficult to follow for many people who want to add this to the gateway. So I understand that, but it seems that it may fragment the API and like add extra constraints when we actually do the telemetry API, which should be fairly soon.
Yeah, I agree. So that's why I'm thinking, like, I can put on hold on this PR and wait for what telemetry API looks like, and then this could be like, and since we have brought it up, like the telemetry API, this could be a good consideration for telemetry to add into the.
Yeah. I think that's what I vote for. That you add this as a requirement to the telemetry API, and if we can just satisfy it there, then that's great.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, yeah, I'm fine with that as well. Yeah.
Related to this topic, do we know what happened to the envoy filter for Bootstrap? There's been some people requesting changes to Bootstrap that apply to using envoy filter.
We don't know, but I think that we should. Did you know who's moving forward? And if no one is, then we should move it forward, because it affects us.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone is working on that, but it seems like if it was there, this would be just a subset of this, right? I mean, it could do other things to Bootstrap, not just stats.
Well, except that, yes, except that it's also the level of the API that would be different, right? On one filter, Bootstrap, would be like very close to implementation, whereas this one is okay. So what is there an issue for or something for that, for the Bootstrap? We can follow up offline on that. But
no, it just came up the other day. People requesting this.
Okay, so I will then open up an issue, because I know we have talked about it before, but I think it is super useful.
Okay, so the decision here is to hold pending other APIs.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Well, Peter, it looks like you are still on the agenda.
Yeah. So basically the other agenda is since we're going to since the mixer has been removed, the whole like policy enforcement section in Istio.io task doc is like needs to be updated or removed. So I'm wondering, shall we replace content in it with WebAssembly-based solution. Like it doesn't have to be exactly the same, but I mean, we probably want to provide or add some tasks with either WebAssembly-based filter or like Envoy native rate limiting API, for example. Yeah, this is just a question. Like since we are early in the release cycle, I think if we want to make major change to the doc, we'd better prepare it early in the cycle. So basically, the task right now is rate limiting. I think we have an alternative solution to use Envoy rate limiting, and the other one is denials on white and black list. I think that is also one thing that we could do with WebAssembly filter. Like we can just replace it with WebAssembly filter. So as the control headers and routing. So this is just some rough ideas. So what do you guys think?
So Nupur has been working on, or she actually already has a PR out that documents and adds tests for x.z.
Yes, x.z. Is it rate limiting or x.z?
Actually, it's both. So she has one for rate limiting as well, and it's a fairly large PR, and so that would be part of what you're talking about. The other part also I think makes sense, like controlling routing. I mean, I guess denial can just be done through RBAC, or we could do. I mean, it would be good to include it as an example of WebAssembly, potentially in like something else like assembly script, to do very small bespoke denials, because that's a very nice use of assembly scripts. I mean, that's what I think anyway. Others may disagree, but I agree. We should just create a tracking issue and add these things to it.
Okay.
So do we want? I mean, so the way I was thinking about this, right, is that policies for the most part can be folded into the authentication and authorization stuff under security. But do we want like a separate page or tab or top level whatever there to be like extensions, which just show a couple of examples of how you extend or example extensions and walk through that? Would that be useful? As opposed to having a policies page, which overlaps with the security stuff?
That's a good idea. I think that this policies does cause confusion now. So that's definitely true.
I'm not sure where rate limit should go, actually. I mean, it's kind of networking too. It's not security.
Yeah, rate limiting is a tough one. Is that traffic management? It's almost traffic management, right?
Yeah, rate limiting can go in traffic management. That's right.
And I mean, also all the APIs are going to use here as just Envoy filters. So I mean, there's a variety of ways to achieve the same goal here, even for some of the tasks. So we might need to choose which way. It doesn't have to be WASM, right? I mean, it could be just standard filters.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what we need to present is at least one way that's fully working, and that's kind of tested with everything, right? So there needs to be a test, especially for something like rate limiting, because it involves something from the outside as well, and then there is a little bit more than just enabling one thing, and that's why having a doc with tests helps there.
Okay, so what's the decision? We put rate limiting under traffic management, and for other part like header control or whitelist blacklist denial, then we put it under some under extension, like a new extension section with WebAssembly, with those filters written in WebAssembly, right? Or is that the right direction?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Though we also talked about just moving. Yes, okay. So moving to security. There are only 4 things on that page. So one is moving to traffic management, and maybe a couple are moving to security. And then we should just add a new extensions page where there can be overlap, right? Because we can show that a deny list, allow list can be implemented in WebAssembly, and then also requirement that's already satisfied.
Okay. So Peter, you're gonna file the tracking bug where we can.
I would do it. Yeah.
Okay. Is John here?
Yeah, sorry,
Okay.
I joined now.
John.
Yeah, so
Perfect timing.
yeah, basically the idea here is I noticed there's a couple cases where we don't have any access logs for failed requests, and it makes some debugging fairly challenging. I'm sure access logs here could also be replaced by metrics if we want to go a bit further, but I've only looked at access logs personally. The 2 main cases I've seen is when there's no matching filter chains. So this is, as far as I know, pretty much only at the gateway. This would be like if you have a gateway set up for foo.com and bar.com, then someone sends a request for something else. For HTTPS, we do the routing at the listener level, not the route level. And so this happens before we hit any of the access log filters. So there's really just no visibility there. The other one is the listener filter failures, specifically like protocol sniffing. So that's really the main one I'm trying to solve. The other one is would be very useful, I think, but that's not necessarily my primary goal. So the idea here is that listener can actually add, or they actually do have a current field for access logs at the listener level, rather than at like the, I don't know where we put it in now, like the HCM or somewhere around there. And I think we can set it up so that we can filter for just failures, so we don't get like duplicate logging. I did a quick prototype of that. It seems to work. Maybe we need to do some more enhancements there to make it more robust, but it seems to kind of work. So I guess there was a couple questions here. Is one, do we want to do this? And if so, how would the API look for this? Like, do we have the same format and it's just always on? If you enable access logs, then it's kind of transparent to the user. Or, do we have a different format? Like, one of the things with the format is, this is at the listener level, and the format has a bunch of stuff that like we won't have access to. So most of the log is just like --. So I don't know, open to ideas there. I personally feel like it's probably easier to just use the same format to keep things simple. And the other one is that the listener filter timeout we can't actually get any access logs. So I have a bug associated with that. That's it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. What do you guys think?
So
Yeah.
go ahead, Manda. I can wait.
Yeah. So the second one, you mentioned there is already a field that does that at the listener level. Does it actually? So does it take care of both those cases?
So it does not take care of this case, but I think it should. I consider it a bug in Envoy, and Quat kind of said the same.
Okay.
I think so. If we can just fix that, then it would satisfy my case, hopefully.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean the main, like the meta goal on the networking side is we want to remove the protocol sniffing timeout, And even I guess if we don't, like you want to know if you hit the timeout, get some sort of log, I suppose. But if we remove the timeout, then we'll have some number of cases where requests just fail and they don't know why because they have the server first protocol in some scenarios. So we would love to actually get an access log there rather than just my request is failing. I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, and I think that just looking at that use case, access log is definitely much more appropriate, or it won't be able to take the place. Rather, metrics won't be able to take place of it, because many times you would want to know the details of like what will more details than just this is the metric, right? You want to know the client IP if that's relevant, or where it was trying to go, right, or whatever else is available during the filter chain match. So yeah, I agree that we should start with no configuration at all, or like basically don't give any configurability. It's perfectly reasonable to have the same format, and the expectation is that this log this shouldn't happen very often. If it happens very often, then something is wrong. You have done something wrong.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it could happen from someone externally doing something wrong as well, like a client sending a request for an invalid server or something. But I think that's still useful. Like, you want to know what requests you're getting, right? If someone's sending you thousands of invalid requests, I'd rather get the access logs for those than just not notice.
Yeah, it also helps with the intentional attacks on the HCM. So if you have some buffer bloat or something like that, the HCM will stop processing, and you will only get access log at this level.
Yeah, so I mean, I was just going to say the same thing that Mandar said, like start simple and have the same format. Maybe the only thing I would say is in our FAQs or some debugging, we should add that when this happens, you will see a log which will have many of these fields not set and what it means. Because we already have access logs sometimes where some of these fields are not set, right? So if there is a specific version of this that that can point to this particular error, it will be useful in documenting it.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that with the mixer logs and things before, right? Where unknowns cause a lot of questions. So having that well documented would be super helpful for our users. Ed, did you want to say something? I thought I saw you.
I would like to see this too. I have requests to get more information about the traffic that is flowing between two things when there's errors for troubleshooting.
So sounds like we have general consensus.
Yeah, I think so. And then I'm writing this down here. So add the access log. We use the same format /API. And then in parallel, we can look at also making the listener filter issues show up there.
And we're going to ensure that there's no duplication of access logs, right? That's the critical piece.
Yes. Yeah, I'll add that as well.
So when you say format, do you include the filters for the access log? Because, I mean, that's the reason why you don't want the double logging, is because you want to add an extra filter there.
I mean, like today in mesh config, you have like the access log file encoding and format. Like, we won't have a new like listener filter access log format. We'll just use the same stuff they've specified there. And we'll transparently add the filter for, I think we just add it for like flag equals NR. But I'll have to actually check that is more as robust as we need it. But that's not user-facing, right?
Right. I mean, that's the thing. Are we planning to have user-facing access log filters? Because then it cannot be the same.
I see what you mean. That's a good question. I think in the current state, it makes sense to just stick it there. If we need to add filters, that will. I don't know. Are you guys planning to add access log filter?
Well, I guess at some point we will, but if you're not exposing a new API, we still have the choice of changing things when we add something like that, right? Quad, do you think we need to address it now or do something about it now, or can it wait until there is a need?
Well, I can always wait. It's just I want to know what we are trying to wait for. It's,
Oh, well, we're just waiting for the need. At least that's what I would wait for, right? Not design something now if it doesn't need to be designed. Just use it to solve the specific problem.
right. I mean, the thing is, it's not. We don't need to design this access filter. It's already there in Envoy. It's just not exposed. So like, it might just take one request by someone to say we want a filter, because API is already there. It's not. It's just not exposed.
Also, filter it here. Okay, so you're saying that a filtering that makes sense inside HCM will not make sense up here.
Yes,
and then it would be
double logging, right? I mean, you're gonna get logs, too much logs in one or other place, so you have to be careful.
okay.
How are we going to control opt into this feature? Is that one way you could get around this in the short term until we get a better feel for what it looks like?
I mean, to me, this seems like something that you most likely want, and we don't really need a permanent, API for it, and we can just add a feature flag in case there's issues with it.
So today people can use Envoy filter to change this anyways, right? So I guess it's not blocker if somebody actually has a need. You can just use Envoy filter to override whatever we're doing. So it's not a problem because you have a way around it.
Okay. Is there anything else to talk about, or should we move on? I know we're coming up quickly on the time you wanted to set aside for the 1.8 roadmap discussion. Any more to say here? Okay. Maybe we should, my agenda item, and go straight to the 1.8 roadmap, since we said we had set aside.
Yep. There is a link now
30 minutes.
in the header itself.
The header itself.
Yeah, the roadmap doc is like right there in the header.
There it is. Took me a second to find it. Then assume everyone can see this. All right. So what do we think? Where should we start?
Start at the top.
Okay. Do we feel like we have the right priorities on the, I think there's consensus around the telemetry API.
Mm-hmm.
Do we feel that metrics customization is also a P0?
I don't have a full understanding how we're going to combine Envoy filter with metrics customization. Are we going to use as a Envoy filters implementation, or are we going to? This seems to be some conflict here because
well,
can use either.
That's yeah. So that's what we need to decide. We need to decide, right? So I would say that that's part of like this work. So one side is that the API is completely implemented inside the control plane in code, and that's how it works. The other option is that these are all compiled down to Envoy filter, and then the control plane proper only acts on the Envoy filter, and I don't think we have.
Should we keep the priorities the same then? Because P0 should not depend on P1, right?
Yeah, that's what I was.
Yeah, so P1 is good. Yep.
But it's also good because I still feel like we have way too many top priorities.
Yeah. So Doug, so the P0 telemetry API, so that's a new user-facing API, and then the metrics customization API it's just the way it is written, it feels like they are the same to me, unless you all are implying something else here.
So
Why is metrics customization API not telemetry API?
Telemetry API is much broader, right? It includes telemetry, access logs, tracing, whatever else that we have already done.
And why won't it cover metrics then?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair question. Is should that cover individual metric? You know, at least for the standard metrics, should that cover customization? Which I think would be a goal, right?
Yep. Okay. So we could move that into the third one into the first one as like a subpart. Yep.
Okay, thank you. That makes more sense to me.
Okay. This work, is it mostly done? The supportable Envoy filter API?
No. If you click on that link, there is still quite a bit. I mean, the API is there. The implementation needs to be done, and then there are a whole bunch of things that are involved. Yeah, there is the istio-ctl. Is Ed on the call? Yeah, he's on the call, right? Yeah, there is istio-ctl onboard filter command, which I think is also mentioned in there in the UX.
Okay.
I mean, sorry. Yeah, I think it's just have to rework the implementation, because supportable means it doesn't crash Envoy, and that's very hard to implement.
Oh, yes, but I think yes, something that doesn't crash Envoy, and something bad that doesn't happen. So actually, we should add that to this as well. Like even though this was just filter management, but I agree with you, Quad, that we already have some things that we can do to protect against like instant mesh file outage. But that has to be one of the things that we do, because it is possible today to put in an Envoy filter that will either cause that will either have the effect of no new proxies can come online afterwards.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to even do it in code without actually running Envoy and doing some staged updates, because it's just the API surface is enormous, and it takes one mismatch.
Right. So that really depends. So we need to have validation, right? But for that, the protos have to be present, and right now we don't hydrate them all the way.
Yeah, I mean, the validation is out of date. That's the issue, right? The validation that one component thinks is not the same as that validation, and it's very hard to know, so unless you run it. So how to do it in code is difficult without actually running Envoy.
Is there? Okay, so we should. Yeah, let's. This needs. We need to have a doc or something like that to basically handle this as well. And we have seen mesh-wide crashes. Like I have personally done them, and I know Kuat has too in his own testing. So it's very, very easy to do.
Happens all the time. It's not good.
Okay, so
Go ahead.
no, I'm just kind of you scrolled up to the next one. That's
Oh
fine.
yeah. No, yeah. So I'm feeling it was time to look at the next stuff. So I have concerns here. I'm interested in what the community thinking is about. Just everything seems like a P0. And I don't know, like, are we going to work on all of these things as P0s, or is there room to sort of balance these out? Like, what is the highest level task here? Is it the beta quality remote load, or is it the WASM API?
And that broadly, I would say, I mean, if you look at the aim for the whole quarter, what are you and Mandar thinking about this working group's deliverable? Like creating a new API and implementing itself, it has taken us 6+ months just to get consensus. User-facing API, plus enabling the enables ecosystem, those are two really big features that we are planning to deliver in 1.8. Like, I feel like one of them completion and then the other one partial should be the aim, maybe, rather than both of them then to completion.
When you say one of them, you talk about the WASM API here being like saying like this is complete and then make this partial, because that's what I sort of echoed that in one of my comments. So I felt like the task was too large.
Yeah, so I was saying that we should try to say that we will actually have a long-term API in this release, which will be alpha. And then for extensions ecosystem, probably we might not have user-facing API, but some underneath implementation done. Like that's where I was going. Like between this one and the one above, I feel like it's really difficult to achieve both. They will both have big impactful changes, right, to the users.
So when I wanted to learn WASM and create my own extensions, I decided to use inline bytes, and I thought it would be a great way to load up filter WASM really quickly. That feature still doesn't work. We can't send inline bytes. Could we fix those things as well?
So inline, I mean, okay, if beta quality remote load worked, would you still need inline bytes?
So I don't have a ECDS server or anything like that.
No. Maybe. You don't need an ECDS server to use remote load. You can just have an HTTP server and point to it.
Okay, so I would be willing to try that. What I had wanted to do was to create some debug tools that threw some filters on immediately and removed them. And I wanted inline bytes because if I used a file, I had to restart with that file being mounted. So that might get me around the bend in terms of loading and unloading. I could start a local web server in my cluster. That seems harder than using inline bytes, but I'm willing to do it. But we should at least document that inline bytes doesn't work, because I spent a couple of days trying to figure that out.
Okay, we will document that. I mean, we can probably fix it. I don't know if it's because of like multiple layers of encoding or what. I haven't really looked at it myself, but I don't think that would be the way that we want our customers and users to load filters anyway. So I would much rather spend time on the other means.
Fair enough. Just make sure everybody knows that, and so we maybe even add some validation or whatever to make it illegal in STO to use inline bytes.
I think we should support inline bytes, but not necessarily for the purpose of WASM. So I think it's a problem of envoy filter really, because the inline bytes work on the pipe to envoy. it doesn't work on the pipe to Istio. So as part of supportable Envoy filter, we have to support inline bytes because it can be used in other places. It could be used to provide like direct response body. It could be used to provide secrets and so on.
I agree, and I did some work in Istio to fix inline bytes, so it now is validated properly by the webhook. So I thought the problem was that Envoy was deserializing it incorrectly.
Oh, okay.
So, well, inline bytes work from Envoy. I mean, I've been using that. It's I'm pretty sure it's somewhere.
I'm sorry, Istio is serializing them as the wrong thing.
Yes, it's somewhere around inside Istio that's being broken. We need to find and fix it.
Okay.
So should we consider then lowering the priority of everything that doesn't deliver beta quality remote load, and maybe increase the priority of documentation? Is that, what do people think about that? I mean, Quad.
The remote load is blocked by Envoy. Really, it's very hard to deliver it without massive changes to Envoy XDS. I mean, it's just a Envoy cannot wait to Aqua NAC, so there's no basically escape route if you NAC, and that requires Envoy changes.
So Quad, I think I don't believe that we need to actually even address all of that, right? Like at least the way I'm looking at it is that we now have both the options of NAC on a cache miss or don't NAC on a cache miss. As long as both those options work properly, and we have the right metrics to track when there is a NAC or when there are configurers, the thing that was approved like last time, I would consider that fine, like, because that's something that people can use, and it will not suffer from the immediate NACs upfront. So I'm actually, I have sort of lower goals than you do, I guess, then.
Yeah, but then it won't recover from intermittent failures, right? If you act immediately and you don't wait for the finish, then if any outage happens somewhere and you can't access the code, then you'll never know about it because it will be just
no. So which is why we added the metrics, right? Which is why we added the WASM metrics that tell you that something that was, even if it was act in anticipation.
But that's a very low bar. You're basically asking somebody to 24/7 monitor NACs for WASM uploads, right?
I think we are going to, well, so we are going to ask people to monitor NACs or something else, right? Like they have to monitor something. And if we ask them to monitor metric X instead of metric Y, or metric X and metric Y, I don't know what do others feel? Is it unreasonable to ask people to monitor things?
Well, I think it's reasonable to expect to monitor things, but that should be for special cases, not for intermittent failures. Intermittent failures should be recoverable.
Oh, but the intermittent failures would be recoverable, right?
I don't think in XDS it will, because it will just accept and happily live with the missed upload, right?
It will. Oh, so okay. So if the, well, there will be, there is some retry there, but correct. If it is a hard failure of the HTTP server where you're hosting the bits, then the only way to know it would be by monitoring metrics. But if it's not a hard failure, then it should just recover. Okay, so we need to prioritize. Yeah, we need to move it up or down then, based on. Okay, so we have a whole bunch of P0s here, and maybe we can downgrade one of those.
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute talking to myself for a while. I feel like the P0 is the delivery, right? Getting the extension there, and then the next set of things around making sure it doesn't crash and then you can monitor it, and then everything else is a lower priority, right?
Okay, I think we could, we could flip that. Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Are there other things about, I mean, the extension readiness that we need to think about in this release? I mean, I know, Ed, you had looked at this and we talked about some of the inline bytes issues, but are there other bits, other working groups working on things like SDKs and other stuff? I don't see any of that work here. Do we need to call out any of that work?
So, I mean, since no one here is working on it, I don't know though what I would like to have, and I think Ed is already doing that, is to make sure that our assembly script, whatever tooling Solo is creating, right? Assembly script works properly with the released or to be released version of Istio. And I would also like to see on the page that we are going to create for extensions, simple assembly script extensions that do like specific things that were documented earlier.
What I would like to see is validation or analysis of the features removed from Envoy filter. We have filters that worked in 1.5 and 1.6 that are now improperly shaped. There should just be a warning that you're still using a 1.5 or 1.6 filter.
Yeah, one comment there. Kubernetes just added warnings on the validation webhook. So we have a great way to expose those. I mean, we can do an Istio code analyze as well, but it's even better if, right when you apply it, you get a warning.
But the issue there is that API server simply doesn't know the inner proto, right?
So we write code for the webhook. Currently it's yes, no, but it can now return a warning. And we want to add to that just some real simple stuff. If the following XPath has a value that's a string, reject it because now it wants a struct or something.
Yeah, I think there's two different issues. One is validating the Envoy filters, which is hard in itself. And the other is where do we expose those messages? So now we have a great place to expose those warnings. We still need to solve the hard problem of how do we validate the Envoy filters deeply, right?
Yep.
And is this something that could be shared with the user experience working group? Is this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
right, and you guys have something. You guys have that on your list too, right?
We didn't rank it high, but we have an issue for it, and I'm happy to write the filter given instructions of which fields are no longer valid and that kind of thing.
Probably need a. Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, it is just for the fields itself. I mean, it's a lot of it is probably from Envoy. So we do need to better document what changed in Envoy between these two releases. But it is a large list. I mean, I can remember it's probably hundreds.
We don't need to document everything. I'm mostly concerned about things that worked in 1.5 or 1.6 or 1.7 that aren't going to work in 1.8 because people will just modify their one and they will wonder why it broke. I want to give them a warning just for those things that are in our samples.
Yeah, but
okay.
Envoy deprecates fields, and we have to track that, and that's probably what causes some of that.
No, I mean, it's not our fault, but several times I've filed something and someone says, well, yeah, but that's not the way it is anymore. It's changed. There should be a way for a robot to tell me that my filter has different fields than a modern one would have.
So Ed, a contrarian view on this is it's an experimental alpha break glass API. Either we change that state, I mean, adding more tools for an API, which we don't recommend people, is that, you think, useful? Like, I'm just trying to understand why should we do
but
this?
Neeraj, we are trying to make it more supportable, right? So there are parts that are going to remain break glass, but even for those, so for example, when the schema changes, if our tool has the old version of Proto and the new version of Proto, and it can then say, okay, this field was dropped after the deprecation time or whatever, right? It's most definitely possible to still warn people that, hey, the thing that you're trying to upgrade is like may fail now, or it's already failing, right? You're setting some timeout, which is now set in some other place, and this thing that you have placed here has no effect.
Any user who writes the Envoy filter is the kind of user we want to stick with Istio. So anything we can do to help that user is great.
Yeah, I mean, my question was also, I totally agree with that, with both of your statements. My question more geared towards, is supportable meaning eventually graduate that API, or we are not going to graduate that API but create tooling around it to make it more usable? Like, that's what I'm trying to get at. Like, the API version matters here, right? In production, many people won't use it because of the way we document they're saying it's alpha and break glass. So is it ever going to be beta because of these efforts? That's mostly to human.
Yeah, I have heard. I don't think there is consensus. What I would at least like to see part of it beta, and then part of it not. But there isn't a consensus. Definitely not. So, but
okay,
making it more supportable definitely helps in that discussion.
Okay, fair enough.
So we have 1 minute, 2 minutes left. Are there other things that have jumped out to people about either missing or incorrectly being prioritized on the list here before we take another pass at harmonizing this? I mean, do we feel like enhancing cell debuggability is really a P0 and we'll get that attention in this release cycle?
Yeah, that should be made into a P1 kind of to correspond with the top line. In my mind, metrics expiry and metadata support for peers not in mesh continue to be P0s. So that's more a statement of need than commitment, and we can decide if we're still committed to it even this release or not. I mean, based on just the amount of work.
We feel that for both of them?
Yeah, both of them. I mean, so yes, I think expiry is more urgent in my mind, because when it hits, it's really bad. But we have heard so many times now that out of mesh peer metadata. So
yeah, I was gonna say I have almost the opposite feeling. I feel like this is the more important.
That's what I was going to say. And I know, so we have finally, Raspberry Mesh moved to Telemetry V2. I'm hoping to gather data now from customers who complained about it. But I agree with that actually. The first one, I only had one user complain about it so far, the metric expiry.
Oh, yeah. Well,
but
that's
a big user, I understand.
Right. So, I mean, I think we do need to put some effort into both of them. I'm okay moving the enable metadata support up if both of you guys think that's what we should do. But
we should remove Jacob's name from it. I don't think he'll be able to work. So,
okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. So then, yeah, we'll keep your name and okay, you and Doug. Good. Request classification. I mean, it's now P1. I think next time it will be P2 unless some intern picks it up. I don't know and there is still a lot of stuff to be done there. So now one could argue that because Kiali is using it in its current form, it's already usable, but at least the work that we had spec'd out, 30% is done.
I would delete that, Mandar, to be honest. Strike it out unless somebody picks it up. And the same goes for support customization of buckets. To be honest, nobody has complained to me so far with buckets. And we all know it's a gap, but if no user is asking for it, we should just move ahead with what we have.
Okay.
So I mean, Doug, just to make sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think then we should do that now. We should move those two to overflow right now, so as to save us another pass.
That's what I meant. Strike it out or something like that.
Yeah.
As long as request classification keeps working, I mean, what it does at the moment is still, I think, pretty useful.
Oh, okay. Oh, great. Jay's here. Yes. So
I mean, as long as it doesn't break. I mean, we had a problem with the docs. It would be nice if it wasn't experimental, maybe, because I think it's already working. But
so I think okay. How about that? We can add that to here, right? We can say that the part of the request classification, we can add the promotion here, which doesn't include implementing all the other features, but just promoting the feature that's already there.
I mean, if people start using it, they'll ask for more, perhaps.
Yeah, and then, okay.
Yeah, it's a chicken and egg without promotion. That's the problem, right?
Oh, I think
use it unless it's
Jay was saying that they would ask for more features in that, and then we can reprioritize the.
Yeah. We should, in my opinion, strike out full log customization also, because when the telemetry API comes, that's when all of that should be handled. We don't need to handle it separately.
So, I mean, we will, I think, do we support full log customization in Stackdriver access log today? We don't, right?
No.
Okay.
I guess we did, not for 1.7, right? So I think it's a P2, so
yeah,
whether we include it in the things we're doing or not, I think it's sort of a...
Yeah, we're not going to do it anyway.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, so we're over time, so we should probably stop. But I will take a pass at sort of reorganizing this based on what I heard here, and I guess tune into the TOC. Did we present last week or no?
Oh no, we did not. We present this Friday.
Okay, yeah. So I'll try and get it done by Friday, and then if you disagree with what I say on Friday, please let me know, and we'll adjust as we go.
All right.
And then you can ping us if you need help.
Yep.
Oh, I plan on it, so thank you.
Bye.
All
All right.
right.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
So, yeah.